Hello, I am Oliver Hardy, and this is my cohort, Mr. Stan Laurel. Stanley?
Hello, Ollie.
And here we are. It all makes sense now, yes? Uh, so, thrilled to be here.
Thrilled to be here.
I had stopped dressing up for Halloween until I met you.
Right.
And then Nancy drugged me kicking and screaming back into the Halloween scene. But I quite enjoy it, I have to say.
It is fun. It is fun.
I have to say it's very fun. And I was saying to Dr. Grandpuchet that you and I start talking about it in March, April?
Yeah.
Somewhere but we couldn't come to any kind of a decision this year.
No.
Until 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
But there is a movie that's coming out about Laurel and Hardy.
Right.
In January, I think. And so we thought, well, you know what? We haven't been men before.
Right.
And a little later, when Gabriel tells us it's safe to, we're going to recap some of the characters that we've been in the past.
That'll be fun.
But thoroughly enjoy being here with you.
It is always fun.
And the point was made to me earlier that next year we could just be Abbott and Costello, and it's basically the same costumes.
Oh, okay.
We can just save ourselves. So anyway, great deal of fun. But we've got a big show. Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy this morning.
Today.
Yeah, two fabulous authors. You've got the books right there.
Yes.
Trevor Pacelli.
Yeah, 6-word lessons on growing up autistic, which is very helpful.
So we're going to love talking about that in a little while with him.
On the spectrum.
And then Lisa Combs.
Push to Open, a teacher's quick guide to universal design for teaching students on the autism spectrum in the general ed classroom.
Well, and I can't wait to talk to her. You know, universal design is that's the big buzzword.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yes. That's what everybody's talking about.
Okay.
And should be talking about so that, anybody can access it. I have had quite an education in the last couple of years from my friends who are on the autism spectrum and that are older about the fact that I have very ableist thinking and don't even notice. And I think we're all guilty of this.
Right.
You and I both grew up in homes where there were people who were disabled.
Right.
And I put the quotation marks on because my mother was born physically handicapped, but never, ever considered herself disabled.
Right.
Right? That was offensive to her. But to anybody else's taste, she would be considered, both of her legs were born facing backward. And, walked in braces most of her life. And by the time she had kids, she spent a lot of time in wheelchairs and on crutches.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how I grew up.
I didn't know
I
that.
thought when I became an adult that I was going to get a limp because my mother would do a surgery and then she would be able to walk for a little while, but she would limp. And I thought, oh, when you grow up, you get a limp. And that was what I thought, that someday I'll get my limp.
Right.
Was my thought process. When my mother found that out, she was horrified. But, I grew up that way. You, of course, had a brother.
Had a brother with Down syndrome.
Yeah. So we grew up in houses where other things were taken into consideration. But even so, there are things that now that I go, oh, well, now I didn't think about that.
Right.
I tend to notice it now. We were at a pharmacy the other day, and there was a big sign that said, for Braille instructions, inquire here, in type. And my son went, who is so stupid? That you make a big letter sign saying, for Braille instructions, inquire here.
Right.
And it's things like that all the time. And things like that happen in the classroom. So universal design is a very, very hot buzzword for the classroom,
great.
which I love. So anyway, we got the two of them, but we have some in the news first.
We have some
Shall
in the
we
news
jump in?
first, yes.
Did you watch 60 Minutes on Sunday?
Is that when the story aired?
Yes.
No, I did not see it.
And I have to be honest that I did not see the entire article, but a very interesting. There were a lot of things on 60 Minutes this week that, man, were dense and intense and make you sometimes go, is there any hope for humanity?
Right.
And they always try to give you something that's
Uplifting.
culturally uplifting and makes you have hope in humanity. It's almost always the last story, and this was the case this week. I can't even, Jaap van Sweden.
Yes.
He is the new conductor
At the New York Philharmonic.
Yeah. And very interesting conductor, interesting style, interesting life. Just so happens he has a kiddo on the spectrum.
Right.
Just
Who's
so
an
happens.
adult, not a kiddo
Right,
anymore. It's
but
an
you know,
adult.
I call them, they're
They're all
always our
kiddos,
kiddos,
right,
right?
right.
But found it interesting. One of the things you could watch and the side for more information, you know how they do that on 60 Minutes
Mm-hmm.
Anymore, more information about this, you can go and watch. They have a side article talking with him and his wife about how they used music to get him to talk.
Uh-huh.
It's very interesting because they use a technique that is very widely used in ABA,
Uh-huh.
but they don't call it that. But they are saying, you know, this is how we got him, and they did it kind of inadvertently. They didn't know that it was a teaching technique,
Right.
but they would constantly have music on. He's a
Mm-hmm.
conductor, you know, they're a
Mm-hmm.
musical family, and they would play these songs, and sometimes they would, you know, like something would happen and you know, the CD would skip or
Uh-huh.
something and a word would be missing and he would get very, very upset.
Right.
And so then they were like, huh. And eventually they started singing the songs to him
Mm-hmm.
and they would pause. So singing something like the ABCs.
Right.
Did you do this with Wyatt?
Yes.
Wyatt spoke pretty
Early. Very early.
and continued to speak. So you
He
didn't have
continued
to
to
fight.
speak, but he lost a lot of language.
Did
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to fight to get it back? 'Cause
Yeah.
I felt like that was all we did the first
Right.
2 years. But so the whole thing of, you know, you sing the ABCs, A, B, C, D, and you sing it over and over and over
Right.
and over and over again, right? And then so that it just is playing in the background over and over and over. And then you say A, B, and you pause.
Right.
And they, you know, like they have that expectation. And then they, you know, you can prompt them.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually they say C.
Right.
And then you yay and you continue on. And then you leave more and more letters out over
Right.
time and different letters out. And they begin, you know, you can do that in a sentence.
Uh-huh.
You can do, but with songs,
So they did it with songs, with words.
yes. And
That's how
so
he became verbal.
so he began, because he wanted so bad for the song to continue, and they made it clear to him, then you say it.
Mhm.
And he knew it because it had played so many times.
Right.
It's just like, I was telling a group the other day that when we taught Jem letter or numbers, we would, you know, we would do 1, 2, 3, but we would
Mhm.
make it fun. So I would be tickling him, and then I would pause, and he would be like, and I would go 1, 2, 3, and then I would tickle him some more, right? So he learned the 1, 2, 3. But then, and he liked the tickles, so then I would go 1. And he would go 2, 3, so that I would tickle him, right? And we got that when he was little. We couldn't get past 3, but he could do 3. But parents have been doing this forever. Teachers have been doing this
Right,
forever. You
right.
do something repetitious over and over and over, then you leave part of it out. It's got to be reinforcing.
Right,
though.
right.
It's got to be something they love. Their son loved these songs.
Mhm.
My son loved the tickles.
Mhm.
But that's a way to get sentences longer,
Right.
to start words.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why we encourage people to start with bubbles, because there's the whole thing with you blow the bubbles and then you go, so you blow bubbles, the child loves the bubbles, then you go bubbles, and then the bubbles come out,
Uh-huh.
bubbles, over and over and over again. And then you go and you don't say the third and you will see their lips will move and do the, even kids with apraxia, their lips will move. And eventually you can get them to the and then you get to the bubble, and then the bubbles, and that's, you know, a way, but bubbles have to be reinforcing in order for that to work.
Right. Okay.
It's all cool. But I
So
loved it in this story.
they-
I thought great
They used
illustration.
reinforcement to teach him language, music
Yes.
reinforcement. And then they started the Papageno Foundation, which offering arts and music therapy projects for children and young adults with autism.
So definitely check that out.
Yeah, and the next step for the foundation was to create a permanent living space that would provide both security and autonomy for the residents. It has 12 boarders at a time, and it's a safe haven where young people in the autism spectrum can participate in art and music classes.
Isn't that
There's
fabulous?
also a culinary school.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Okay, so from that happy story, moving on, we do have a story that is not pleasant. So if you've got little kids,
Right.
maybe not the thing that they want to hear. In Independence, Missouri, a 17-year-old has been charged with robbery, and 2 minors have been put in juvenile detention after a disturbing video was posted on Facebook showing an assault of a 13-year-old with autism. And the victim's mother has said that she wants those who are responsible, to be held accountable. Her son is Alexander Schrader. He's the perpetrator is Alexander Schrader, 17, is charged with 1 count of first-degree robbery, and he's being held on a $100,000 cash-only bond in relation to this attack that was on the video. It's Emily Bridges who's the mom. It's her 13-year-old son, Darren, who had bruises on his face when he came home.
And they actually pulled a gun on him.
Yes. And like I will tell you, so much of what I read, usually I'll go and watch the video, but so much of what I read said it's so disturbing that I didn't. Apparently it's out there and you can watch it if you want to, but they were yelling at him, telling him to kiss their feet. You know, we talk on the show a lot about how there are 4 usual suspects for why people do things that are challenging behaviors. The truth is there's 5. But our kids with autism usually only engage in the first 4 until they're adults and have learned other things from other people. But the 5th one is control. That sometimes people just want to have control. And sometimes the things that people do when they feel the need to take control are so insidious. It's so disturbing to me. And I, you know, I want these kids to be held accountable because they need to learn that you can't do this. But I do hope that somebody looks into their lives to find out why, at 17, you feel so out of control that you would do this to another person.
Right, exactly.
Because that is just horrific, just horrific. But we're hopeful that justice will be served in this case and that this young man will be okay.
Right. And then there's a science story about unique patterns of neurocommunications found in the brains of children with autism. A research team studying MRI scans of school-aged children's brains found unique patterns of neural communication involving the amygdala, the area of the brain responsible for processing social information. As
technology gets better, and as there are more kids with autism, we're having more studies being done on the brain where families are allowing their children to have MRIs done.
That's right.
And we're getting to, and where they're interacting with them and seeing while they're doing the MRI actively what parts of the brain light up, which don't. I remember one of the first articles that I ever read about autism because I kept saying, well, what is it exactly? How did this happen? And I remember somebody telling me that imagine, well, first of all, that it's pretty typical that our kids' brains are bigger than the average brain, and that there was a period of time in which the brain, almost like it was infused with yeast, and it just grew way faster than it should have, so that we have 3-year-olds with adult-sized brains. And that what happened is that all the wiring, when it grew so fast, so they have long distance but no local service. So they might be able to, at 3, be able to do calculus, but they don't know how to say hello. And that really resonated with me. And now it's how many years later, 14 years later, and they're starting to bear this out with actual pictures of brains. We've seen Temple Grandin's brain. I encourage people to check out, if this kind of thing interests you, this is out of San Diego University, just came out this week, that they're saying that the communication between different regions of the brains in kids with autism, that it takes unexpected exits, that there are detours for no apparent reason, that the way that things travel through the amygdala is just different. Just different.
Yeah, so
fascinating. Check it out.
Science.
All right. Cool. We've got 2 great guests, as we said, Trevor Pacelli and Lisa Combs, both authors. We're going to take a break and come back with Trevor, so stick with us.
And we are back with Let's Talk Autism, and I am Stan Laurel.
And I'm Oliver Hardy. There we go. Stanley! Isn't that what he says all the time?
Yes, Ollie.
Yeah, exactly. Here we are. So thrilled to be back with you guys.
Yes.
And forgive us because we're in our Halloween costumes, but we've got great guests.
We do. We have Trevor James Pacelli joining us now. Now, Trevor wrote the book 6-Word Lessons on Growing Up Autistic, which we're going to get into in a minute. And he, as a child, published drawings in 2 children's magazines, and at age 15 illustrated a children's autism awareness book, The Kindergarten Adventures of Amazing Grace, with his sister and author Brianna. and he's had all sorts of accomplishments and writes movie reviews for his own website at trevorpacelli.com. Welcome to the show, Trevor.
Hi, thanks so much for having me here.
We're thrilled to have you here. So Trevor, where did this idea of why 6 words? Why not 16 words?
Well, so the whole thing is that it's a part of my parents' book publishing company, because like the whole idea of it is that it originates from this idea of someone who could write a story using only 6 words. For sale, baby shoes, never worn. And so, like in that same way, my parents have set up this series of all of these 100 lessons that can tell you all about a certain subject of the author's expertise, where the title of each lesson is 6 words. Just kind of that concept of it being very short and precise, so that way it can be very quick, efficient, and easy for someone to read, and a reading that can be done in only one sitting to read through.
I love it. And so you already had this format that your parents had talked about, 6 words, but what made you want to write this particular book?
Well, the thing that really most made me want to write this was more about how, like, so few people really know what autism is, at least when I was growing up. I mean, I've seen an awful lot more improvement of it now lately since I've been an adult, but like especially when I was in grade school, middle school, and high school, like none of my peers really knew much about what autism even was, and I don't recall there being any real curriculums used about teaching about what a mental disorder is really like and what it's about and how it affects other students, and that could be like in their classroom. So I just wanted to write this to give others a perspective of what it's actually like from someone who grew up with it, so that way others could know what the autistic mind is like, and how, like, not only that, but you can also realize that despite differences, we all can be friends with each other, despite differences.
I love that.
And you have it broken down into different areas about how important it is to understand a different view of the world, for example, time alone versus time with others, getting out there to make friends, sudden changes are a big challenge. So there's broken down into areas that I guess you have direct experience with, right, Trevor?
Yes.
So you're definitely dealing from your own experience, which really is helpful, because I don't think I've ever seen a book like this that had it in such a really easy to understand format about the feelings of an autistic person.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole idea of it, because like when I was talking about this with my parents, when they first proposed this idea to me, it's just that like usually when most people would go out and learn about what autism is like, they would have to rely on like all this pages of scientific research by these other scientists who are not on the spectrum themselves. So I really do think it's valuable to have this perspective from someone who's actually lived through it, because what could be more valuable than that?
And I love the format of the book because it's so accessible. You know, there's a phrase that I use because of graduate school. When I went to graduate school, the very first week, one of our teachers, we had been assigned so much reading that I was like, I love to read. I don't know how I'm going to get all this done. And plus, which, you know, there's other reading that you need to do supplementary to it. And so one of our professors said to us, look, you know, here's a reading list of books that you have to get done. And my suggestion to you would be to take them and stick them in your bathroom. And maybe you're going to read a page or two at a time, right, but you're going to, by over a year, you're going to get stuff done. And so we now refer to in my family bathroom books that are books that books that you put in the bathroom that for guests or for whoever that, you know, they pick up, read a page, and right, it can be life changing. Yeah, because it's just that amount of time. And that's what this book is, Trevor. And I mean this is a big compliment. I hope you take it that way. But it's a great bathroom book. Because you remember that book that was out? This is what this reminds me of, the book that said Life's Little Instruction Booklet. And
Right.
everybody was giving it to everybody like 20 years ago.
Right.
And it was just one-page things that were these tips for life. I still use some of them. This is amazing, one-page things that you can read in just a couple of minutes, and then really sit and stew on it for a month. I think that it's really fascinating. Can you just pick any page, Nancy, and read?
Balance solo activities with parental interaction. So the need to have solo activities, the needed time alone. I needed that last night as a reminder. When
Right?
dealing with my son.
Because I think a lot of times as parents, we're so afraid to give them 10 minutes to themselves because what could happen? Well, what could happen is that they could get interested in something that's really good for them.
Exactly.
And we tend to helicopter too much. So see there, what a fabulous, fabulous tip. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, Trevor, that you've done. Where can people get the book?
You can purchase it on Amazon, and it can be bought for the Kindle, or you could get a paper copy like what you have right there with you.
I just love it. Okay, but Trevor, you got a diagnosis at the age of 5, and your diagnosis was high functioning. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And a lot of times people tend to think that individuals on the spectrum have a hyper interest in some things as opposed to other things. It isn't true of everybody. But one of the abilities that you have, I understand, is that you can name all of the best picture winners by heart from 1928 to now. Is that true?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, just give me any year between 1928 to now.
That's amazing.
Well, I want to know what won in 1972.
The Godfather.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool. Nancy, you want to ask one?
What won in 1981?
Chariots of Fire.
Ooh.
That's amazing.
Takes you right back, doesn't it?
does,
Then you
it
remember that
does.
and go, oh, I remember that year. And I understand you also do a lot of assemblies for elementary schools on the topic of Disney movies and how they relate to autism. I want to go and see
I know.
this.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, basically, I set it up as an acronym called Autism is Belong, where each of the different letters in Belong relates to each of the different Disney movies recently made. So that includes Tangled, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Big Hero 6, Zootopia, and Moana. And each one of them connects each of the characters to autism in some way. So, like, an example could be like how Elsa in Frozen separates herself from everyone else, and that causes her to have little control for her powers. But when she's open and brings herself out to others, she has better control for her powers. And that's just like how with autism, like a lot of them would not be able to know how to express love or selfish feelings towards others, but they are capable of doing it. I provide an example of that by showing an image in my PowerPoint of this couple with Down syndrome on their wedding day. So I'm just kind of showing that kind of stuff in assembly format to these grade school kids. And so far I've done it at 3 different schools.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that the kids in the elementary schools
Can
love
relate
it.
to it.
Oh, yes.
It's a
Yeah,
wonderful
because
thing.
when you so much as mention the name of any Disney movie, they definitely go wild.
And you write your own movie reviews for your own website. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's called Trevor's View on Hollywood. And so, like, I've had this site for about 4 years now. And so what I do with it is that I actually have, like, 28 different points on how to assess a movie that, like, judges it based on, like the acting and the quality of its editing and cinematography and costume design, music, and the direction, screenwriting, and even those have different subcategories to them. And I have a very, very complex system to assessing each of these different points that I've worked on for like quite a long time. Like, I set it up almost 2.5 years ago, and even now I'm making constant changes to it to give what I think is a much more accurate and analytical analysis of a movie's quality from an objective analysis.
And so,
Right.
Trevor, you are someone who graduated from college already at 26 with a degree in film and media studies. You're working right now, living independently with 2 roommates. You drive your car. You are not, I would imagine, the job that you work, you have 2 separate things that you do for a company. Both janitorial and marketing, which to me don't really go together. I'm assuming, not that there's anything wrong with doing janitorial work, but I'm assuming that you prefer the marketing end of things. What's the end? What kind of a job are you looking for? What's your dream job?
Well, I would say right now my dream job is to do my movie review stuff more full time. And I've kind of had like wild fantasies of maybe setting this up more as being its own company where I have more people coming to help me to do their own analysis on this certain part of the points that I have with assessing a movie. So that way it can be much more accurate than the system that I have now.
Okay, very good.
I think that's
Well,
wonderful. We wish
no.
you the best of luck. We want to encourage people to get your book. Can you hold it up there, Nancy?
Yes.
This is the book, and
6-word lessons in growing up autistic.
and again, where can we get it, Trevor?
On Amazon.
Okay,
Okay?
check it out, you guys. Great gift for the
Thank
holidays.
you for joining us, Trevor.
Yeah, and I definitely have Northwest Center to thank too.
Okay,
Yeah,
Northwest
the
Center.
company I work for.
Okay, great.
There,
We
you
see
got the
that.
marketing
got
in.
You got
You
the marketing
in.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Trevor, and good luck to you with all your future endeavors.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me on here.
Okay.
Having
Thanks,
this
Trevor.
opportunity.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
What a really inspirational young man.
Yes, he's accomplished so much.
Yes, and I'm sure is going to accomplish a lot more. We'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on him.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to have author Lisa Combs is going to talk with us about her book, Push to Open, and talking about that universal
Right.
design that everybody's talking about. So stick with us. Stanley, we don't have Lisa Combs. I don't know
No,
where
we
she
don't.
is.
We don't know what happened
We
to
don't know
her.
what happened, but we can't reach her. It might be we hope she's okay.
We
But
do.
her book is Push to Open, and we'll have her, if Lisa, if you're watching, we're looking for you.
Could have been a time zone issue.
A lot
which
of times
have on
we tell
occasion.
people time zones and they're in different time zones. And
Right,
the math
right.
is not properly done on our end or theirs. Could be anything, right?
Could be.
But anyway, Push to Open, we want to talk about it. So Lisa, if you're watching this, call us and we'll get you on so that or today or another time. But we said that we were going to talk a little bit about the Halloween thing because I met you and was intimidated by you. Let's say that, right? And then there was a story that was breaking that you asked if you could come on Autism Live to talk about. It was a young boy who had been missing.
Right.
You went to a news station to help, cover the story and also to help find this boy.
Help find him.
And you
Romero.
were part and parcel of everything. It was an amazing story of how they found this young man. And so you came on Autism Live to talk about this breaking story, and you and I just hit it off.
We did.
We were just like a house on fire. We just couldn't stop talking to each other. And so we said, let's do this all the time. Let's do this once a
Right,
week. And
right.
thus, Let's Talk Autism with
was
Shannon
born.
and Nancy was born. And then the first Halloween rolled around, and Nancy says to me, we should dress up for Halloween. And I said, well, that's a clever idea. Let's
Right.
do that. And she says, let's do Lucy and Ethel, because people had called us the Lucy and Ethel
of autism.
autism. So we said, okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's be the Lucy and Ethel of autism. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So I went and last minute, like I do everything, bought this horrible
Polka dot dress, as I recall.
Yes. I just
And
found it
you
in
had
the movie edit.
pearls.
And I had pearls to be Ethel. and I bought this terrible Marilyn Monroe wig that wasn't right, but I kind of tried to style it in this, there we are.
There we are.
Now, don't I look like Martha Washington? I look like George Washington in drag.
And
is
of
what
course,
I,
I
look
was
like.
Lucy.
And let me just say, like she wore the Lucy wig, and this costume is vintage.
Yes, it was a vintage costume that I
50s
rented
costume.
that was a Lucy dress, basically.
Like Lucy probably wore it in one of the episodes.
She might have, and I got shoes, spectator shoes that like she would have worn.
And then she did like hours of tutorials in how to do
makeup.
the Lucy makeup.
Which type of false eyelashes to get, how to do the lips like she did them, how to do her makeup like she did it.
She was amazing, and I looked like George Washington in drag.
And you felt very, underdone.
I was like, I have shown up to the party where everybody's in diamonds wearing jeans with holes in them, and not like the jeans with holes in them, they're fashionable. And I was like, I got to step up my game.
Right. So the next year.
And we have a collage that shows the next 3 years. So I don't know if you guys can see in the bottom there, we were the two queens.
We were Queen Elizabeth I and the current queen.
And the current queen. So that was.
And Shannon, you did a great job because I told you had to have a corgi.
And you brought me a purse.
Yeah, I brought you a purse.
I started on the dress the day before, but I made a pretty cool dress with a pretty cool sash, and my husband made me a crown.
Right.
As all husbands should do.
And you had the accent down.
And so there we are. But your costume was exceptional. But the thing about my costume that made my costume was that you said to me, you have to have the corgi.
Right. So you got the dog.
So
the
I got a
stuffed
corgi.
Dog.
And we had a blast.
We did.
We need to resurrect these two.
That was fun. That was
a really fun time. So the next year, I don't know if you can see up above that, I was Julia Child.
And I was Martha Stewart, so I wore a prison uniform with my Chanel pearls and shoes.
Right. And then the next year, so there we are, Julia Child. You were a little bit unhappy with me because I didn't dye my hair.
I know.
I meant to, just like I meant to today.
Yeah.
I had a spray brown, and then I chimped out on it, and then I had a spray black today, and Jim was like, "Oh, you don't have to," and so I didn't do it. But otherwise, I tried my best, but I wasn't up to par with you then either.
And then we were Ellen
and Rosie O'Donnell. Which was very exciting for me because then the following year I got to meet Rosie O'Donnell and very excited to meet her as she ran up to me on the red carpet and said, "I know you. I watch Autism Live all the time." That
Does
was
she
like,
really?
I was very excited about that. And she does. She's an autism mom. She's watching Autism Live. So that was very fun. Now if we could only get Ellen to watch.
The one thing we don't have up is what we were last year, which was Cher and Adele.
Cher and Adele last year. And I had all my Grammy Awards. But there's
Ellen and Rosie.
Ellen. That's a pretty decent picture. We actually look a little bit like them.
Yeah, we do.
Picture. You were hilarious. One of the things that we do after we do the show when we're in costume is that
walk around.
We usually tour the offices. It isn't usually Halloween Day. But we tour the offices and spread light and cheer.
Right.
And especially with Adele and Cher last year, it was hilarious. But I got to say, when you were Ellen, it was hilarious. Everybody wanted a picture with you.
I was dancing.
You looked like Ellen, and you were very sporty like Ellen, and you were dancing everywhere. It was fabulous. So we have a good time. Today, there's a whole luncheon, because they do a potluck.
Oh, really?
Yes, so you have to come to the potluck and we have to be Laurel and Hardy.
Okay, we'll do that.
We need to work up some sort of comedy routine.
I know. I just know he goes like this a lot.
Exactly. And I'll just go, "Stanley," disapprovingly.
Right.
Because that's pretty much what Oliver and Hardy do. Now, the little known fact, there's a fun thing about my wedding that has to do with Oliver Hardy.
Yeah.
The gentleman who married us at my wedding played Oliver Hardy at Universal Studios.
Oh, really?
That was kind of how we found him, was that a mutual friend said, "Oh, you're looking for somebody to marry you. There's this guy." So he was a larger man,
right,
bald, and with the little Hitler mustache.
Okay.
And so and when he's dressed up as Oliver Hardy, you know, he looks like Oliver Hardy. But when he's not dressed up as Oliver Hardy, he looks like a fat Hitler. And sorry. And so he was wearing a black shirt, and we had a black background because we got married in a theater. And so our colors were black, white, and red. So everything was black and white with red roses. And so the pictures of our wedding, there's Jim standing there in black and red and me standing there in white. And it looks like he's totally dressed in black, but he's on a black background. So it looks like there was this mystical floating head. It looks like the head of fat Hitler is marrying us, like inside of a crystal ball. It's not the best thing, but it is what it is.
Only you would have wedding pictures like that.
And, you know, and we've been married 16 and a half years, going on 17, so I guess it didn't hurt us any.
No.
And he said it was a beautiful ceremony, and he said a beautiful Celtic poem that I don't remember it, but I can paraphrase, that I love because I still think about this, that it was this thing about they're the last person that I want to see before I go to sleep tonight, and the first person I want to see when I wake up in the morning, which is still true. So I love that. So if you're watching, Jim, still true, even though it was fat Hitler, Oliver Hardy, who married us. And there you have it, folks. Now, we still don't have Lisa Combs, so I wanted to take a minute.
So we're going to have to rebook her for another day.
That's okay, and we'll do that when there's more time to do that. But if you're interested, in the meantime, get Push to Open. You can buy this at all major booksellers. It's a teacher's quick guide to universal design for teaching students on the autism spectrum in general education classroom, which is a thing that we need desperately. It's a great manual. It's got everything from seating charts. I mean, very particular things about, there's even a thing about smell and how when things don't smell right in the classroom, it can drag things down.
Right.
It talks about behavior and about things. I love this. Reducing auditory clutter. Oh my gosh, as a teacher, that is so helpful. Talks about everything. Teacher, consider your voice volume, because sometimes talking louder isn't the ticket.
Right.
Right? How to do sound absorbing items in your classroom. Teach students to control voice volume. Practice what volume of voice you can be heard at different distances. Provide whisper phones for students to read aloud or to talk to partners. Monitor and limit unnecessary adult conversations. I don't know about you, but it really cheeses me off when I go to a school and they say, well, we don't like to have adults come in to interrupt, so parents can't come in at all, you can't do anything. But then they have constant interruptions where people will come in the middle of a class and talk to a teacher about something that clearly could wait. Makes me crazy. This is a great book. Push to
Okay, we're going to get her
Open.
back on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
but
get her
let's
on.
talk a little bit about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we had our big Denim Diamonds and Stars gala.
And it really was lovely.
It was a great event, wasn't it?
It really
there were
was.
some
Nancy.
amazing guests there.
How about that? That's a pretty cool picture.
There we go with Joe Montaigne
And
Joanne Laura from Autism Works Now, who received our Golden Cowgirl Award.
And what? Oh my gosh.
And there you are with from
Nick. It's Garcia.
Gonzalez.
You're right.
From,
Nick Gonzalez from The
from
Good Doctor.
The Good Doctor.
A kind of a handsome young man.
Yeah,
Let's say
very
that,
handsome.
Eye candy.
And there's the red carpet.
Yes. Our good friend BJ working the red carpet.
Right.
And the lady in the blue tutu who would never, ever let go of a guest. You guys can watch our coverage and they get to hear me babble because it's just me talking endlessly while I'm waiting for guests to come up. And the lady in the blue tutu, there are rules on the red carpet where, you're only supposed to ask a certain number of questions and then you're supposed to release the people. They're there
Right, because there are other people waiting
They're
for them.
not there to do an expose.
Yeah.
And I love being on the carpet with people and, and all the things that happen. And I like to maintain a sense of humor about it. And I was very nice to the girl in the blue tutu who did not understand time limits.
No, she kept grabbing guests.
Oh my gosh. And not allowing them to move further down the line and just, talk to Martin Sheen for like 35 minutes.
Right.
Knowing that I was standing there waiting to talk to Martin Sheen, got to talk to him for 2 minutes. So, you know, I was very polite to her, but I was about at the end of my rope. And you guys can listen to all of that.
That's
if
right.
you watch the live footage and hear me saying, and so if the girl with the blue tutu would release someone ever. But
we had a West Wing reunion right there on the red carpet.
Oh my
We had
gosh.
Gary Cole,
Yes.
Dulé Hill,
Richard Schiff, who was getting an award.
who got the award, and Martin Sheen. So they all
amazing.
got together on the red carpet.
It was amazing. But here's the other thing about the girl in the blue tutu that wasn't, next time I'm going to say something to her if she's there again, but I loved her blue tutu. But you know what did happen is because she kept Martin Sheen on the red carpet for so long, did you notice when Richard Schiff, when it was time to give his award, which was like 2 hours later after the red carpet, they said, well, we have a very special guest to introduce Richard. And Martin Sheen got up and people in the audience went, Martin Sheen is here? Like they had no idea because he had been kept on the red carpet
for
so long
right.
that nobody knew that he was there. And I was like, now see if the girl in the blue tutu hadn't done that. But anyway, yes, I'm a little rule oriented, right? Everybody gives you the nice polite talk whenever you go to do a red carpet, and they'll go, now we're limiting it to 2 minutes with each guest and move it along and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, I do my 2 minutes. Anyway, but it was great, and to see the four of them together
was really exciting. Here's
a reason why to watch our live footage. There was a point when, because she was talking to Martin Sheen, Richard Schiff came down and was talking with me and Gary Cole, and they were waiting for Martin. So I did get a longer interview with the two of them, and I said, hey, in this environment in which people are bringing back all these shows, I'm just saying, is it a possibility? I was the hugest West Wing fan. And I said, is it a possibility? And they said, well, you know, I mean, the truth is we've had conversations with Aaron Sorkin about it, but the problem is that most of the people that we would want to be president can't be president. Like, you can't bring Martin Sheen back and be president.
Why not?
Because 2 terms. He can't come back and be president again. And they were saying, you know, and by this time Jimmy Smits already would have been elected twice. And so, you know, who do you make president?
Right.
And Gary Cole said, well, the obvious answer is to make Allison Janney president.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, I was like, oh, you know, and I just held the microphone out to them, and then the two of them started talking about it. And Richard Schiff said, well, I have this idea, you know, and then they started talking, go watch it. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's amazing.
To watch them brainstorming.
And I just got really quiet. You know that whole Hamilton song about when you're in the room? I was like, I'm in the room with a microphone and a live feed. I'm going to shut up.
Right. And
let these two gentlemen talk. And then they had a whole conversation about Gary Cole's work on Veep.
Right.
Do you watch Veep?
I don't watch Veep.
Oh, it's so funny. It is so funny. My husband and I watch it and weep doubled over. And Richard Schiff said this amazing thing about Gary Cole. He said, you know, if you watch Gary Cole on the show, what you will see is him he's being serious. He's doing Shakespeare while all these other people are doing all this other stuff, which adds to the funny, and that's exactly what it is. Gary Cole is playing it completely straight, but the lines are so funny. Oh my gosh, that's about the funniest show there is. Anyway, it was
I think we're out of time.
Are we out of time? We're over. Somebody needs to pull a hook and get me off.
Exactly.
But anyway, it's Halloween.
It's Halloween.
Please take it easy
Thanks for joining Laurel and Hardy today.
Yes, take it easy tonight on yourself and on your kiddos. Take the picture and then let it go. Whatever it is, it is. I'm going to try to do that myself. You're going to try to do that? We'll do the best we can.
Do the best we can.
And enjoy as much of it as you can. We're not doing a live show tomorrow. We're back next Wednesday. But the beta of our new website starts tomorrow, and we're releasing our new gift guide tomorrow. So you want to go to beta.autism-live.com and check it out. You'll click on the toy guide, but also look around, poke around, tell us if there are bugs, tell us if there are things that aren't working, things that you wish were a different way. I think you're gonna love it.
Okay.
So that starts tomorrow, beta.autism-live.com. Okay, we'll see you next Wednesday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.
Happy Halloween.